All right. In Geometry 7.1, they're all starting to talk about similarities. So similarities has a lot to do with ratios. So the first page talks a lot about ratios, which I'll get back to in just a second. And then the second page kind of has you use ratios to solve some problems. And it has some definitions up here and some more problems. And then 7.2 is when you kind of get into the shapes. So I'm going to kind of go through 7.1 first, and then I will make a separate video for 7.2. All right, so first of all, in here they talk about some vocabulary. A ratio is a comparison of numbers. So really, basically, a ratio looks just like a fraction, right? So like A over B, it looks like a fraction. If you have a proportion, it's when you have two fractions that are kind of set equal to each other. So here you can see AB equals CD. The fact about these means and the extremes, don't really worry about that. We're not going to really be getting into that. So any problems that ask you for the mean or the extreme, you can just skip those problems. All right. And the cross product property rule is how you cross multiply in order to solve a ratio. So the first thing you need to look at here is you have 6 days over 15 days. So you can write a ratio like this, 6 is to 15, or you can write it 6 over 15, right? Either way, it's really saying the same thing. However, in any case, you always want to reduce your fraction. Now, 6 is in days and 15 is in days, so your units are the same, so that's fine. So all you have to do is reduce the fraction. So I can divide the top part by 3. Hold on. So I can divide this by 3, and I can divide this by 3. So if I reduce my fraction, it would be 2 over 5. There are lots of calculators that will do that for you. Feel free to use your calculator if you know where the button is. If you're not sure about that, just send me an email and what kind of a calculator you have, and I'll be happy to walk you through that. Now, if you look here at simplifying the ratios on B, this one here now, it says 6 days. I'm sorry, this one here, 2 feet over 2 yards. So if I have 2 feet over 2 yards, well, I can't just ignore the units because feet and yards are not the same units. So if I remember, 3 feet equals 1 yard. So I can change these yards into feet by multiplying it by 3. So now I know 2 feet will be the same thing as 6 feet. Now my units are the same. I can reduce the fraction. I can divide the top and the bottom both by 2. So I know that this ratio is 1 to 3. So see if you can do the exercises number 1, number 2, and number 3 on the bottom of this worksheet. Just keep in mind that on number 3, the units are not the same. So you have to remember that 12 inches equals 1 foot. So if you have questions on those 3s, let me know. But I want to kind of continue on to the practice here and show you how they use it in an example. So they have a diagram here, and they say the whole length here, X, Y, Z, they say the whole length is 24 inches, 24 feet, it doesn't matter, 24 units. And that they tell you in here that the ratio of X, Y to Y, Z is 1 to 5. So I know this ratio is 1 to 5. Well, I don't know what those lengths are. So I'm going to call this piece 1x, and I'm going to call this piece 5x. Okay? Well, I know that this piece plus this piece has to equal this entire length. Well, I can write an algebraic equation saying it. This piece, 1x, plus this piece, which is 5x, has to equal the whole length, which is 24. Well, now I have an algebraic equation. I can combine my like terms. So 1x plus 5x will be 6x equals 24. If I want to solve this for x, I have to divide both sides by 6. My 6's will cancel out on this side, and x equals 24 divided by 6 will be 4. So that's how you can use a ratio to solve a problem. So see if you can complete 4, 5, and 6 on this. Those are kind of all doing it that way. And then I want to show you on the bottom here how you would cross multiply. So there's two ways you can solve a proportion. You could do a simple proportion, which would be like 3 over 2 equals x over 8, for instance. And you can cross multiply. By cross multiplying, you're going to take these two and multiply them together. So 2 times x will give me 2x. And you're going to set that equal to these two multiplied together. Well, 8 times 3 is 24. And now again, I have a simple algebraic equation that I can solve. I'm going to divide both sides by 2. The 2's will cancel out on this side, and I have x equals 12. So that gives you a start on 7-1. If you have any further questions, let me know. There's one more proportion I want to do. They have an example down here, but I just want to walk you through it. Where now they have the proportion a little bit harder. They have 3 over 2 equals 9 over x minus 1. Oops, there you go. Anytime you have more than one thing in the denominator, you really want to make sure you put it in parentheses before you cross multiply. So now I'm going to multiply these two together. So 9 times 2 is 18. And I'm going to set it equal to these two multiplied together. Again, I'm going to remember to keep my x minus 1 in parentheses. So this will be 3 times x minus 1. Well, now there's another step. I have to distribute this 3 before I can actually solve the problem. So I'll have 18 equals, well, 3 times x will be 3x. 3 times a negative 1, remember the sign always has to go with it, would be a negative 3. Well, again, my goal is to get the term with the x alone, so I'm going to add 3 to both sides. And 18 plus 3 will be 21 equals 3x. And in order to solve for x, I'm going to divide by 3. They're going to cancel out that way, and I'm going to have x equaling 7. All right, so if you have any questions, let me know.